Hey friends, it's Mike. It's Monday, March 19th, 2019, and it is a little after 8 a.m. here on the East Coast in Raleigh, North Carolina. This video is going to be about my future plans and direction regarding my work in alternative and conspiracy research. And I have been thinking through this now for quite a while, I would say over the last year, and it's gotten more so as far as thinking through where am I going over the last 6 months. And then over the last month, it's really kind of heated up. You know, it's when you get that feeling, everybody I'm sure has experienced this feeling where you know that you're getting nudged and pushed to say, you need to go explore, discover another road, another path in life. You've been on this one for a while. You got out of it what you needed to get out of it. You communicated your findings and your research and your thoughts and your insights out for others to listen to, and if it resonates, fine. If it doesn't, but in other words, I did what I believe I needed to do. And one of the conversations that I've had with Barry is that if I stop doing this work, or if I sunset it, because that's where I'm going with this, am I walking away? Am I just leaving something unfulfilled? Am I abdicating responsibility? And her response back to me is, Mike, how long have you been doing this? So she has a very good point, right? So the blog, I started back in the 2011-2012 timeframe, around there. And I've been doing that blog, updating it daily, every day for 7 to 8 years. Maybe there were a dozen times when I didn't get to the blog on a particular day because I was vacationing or I was tied up, whatever it may be. But for all intents and purposes, over the last 7 to 8 years, I have posted something to that blog every single day. And the blog in its heyday was doing like 100 to 120,000 views a month, which is considerable considering the topic, which is conspiracy related. And that was until the powers that be, and Google in particular, decided that they were going to limit the audience. And they do this, they do this very cryptically. They don't send you a memo and say, "Dear Mike, we're going to restrict your audience because we're not fond of the topics that you're posting." So it's basically this slow drip where they start to pull the viewership out. And I've said this in other videos. The first place where they took the blog out was in Europe. Now, I still have a European audience, but it's nowhere near where it used to be. So to give you an example, I went from 120,000 views at its height, going back maybe about a year ago or so, to about 30,000 views a month now. So, I'm out 90,000 views a month. So you start to think to yourself, okay, well, the rug is being pulled out, and one side of me says to keep going because there's still 30,000 viewers a month. But really, the underlying issue that I have to think through is that the content and the material is beginning to become very repetitive to me. It's almost like I'm going through the motions on it, putting it up because I feel obligated to put something up. And but at the end of the day, if I really ask myself an honest question, which is, do you still really want to do that, or would you rather take the time back and do something else? The answer is, I'd rather take the time back and do something else. Okay, so what I'm saying is the blog will still be there, but the content is most likely not going to be updated every single day. In fact, I can tell you it's not going to be updated every single day. I'll post when I feel like I've come across material that is worth posting and that I think is going to be of interest. I realize that approach is going to reduce the number of views a month, but that's just the way it goes. I've been doing it, like I said, for 7 to 8 years. The blog has over 2.1 million views in total, so it's had a very good run. No regrets, a very good run. The other thing is, and probably maybe more important to some people, is that I am going to sunset my work in the Paul is Dead conspiracy arena. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3 more shows, or I should say video uploads, right? So the first one is going to be an interview that I've committed to do with Mark Devlin, and we're going to record that in early April. And in that interview, I'm sure we will cover much of what is in the new version of Memoirs. So anybody who's interested in understanding what the new Memoirs contains, I can guarantee you Mark and I will talk through a lot of that for 2 hours. Okay. The second interview is going to be a show with a person who is a source of mine. His name is Richard. He is an expert in the occult. He has done some remarkable work tying occult symbolism and occultism into the whole Beatles story. And so Richard's going to come on the show, and he's going to take us through his work. And his work is not only going to be pertinent to the McCartney conspiracy, but his work is going to be is going to shed a lot of light on how the occult permeates everything in our reality, especially when we talk about other conspiracies or events that take place, right? So, I mean, to give you a little hint, he's going to explain to us why 9/11. Many people have asked that question, right? Why is 9/11 so important? And for as long as I've been in the conspiracy research business, I don't feel like I've ever really received a satisfying answer to that. And it wasn't until recently when Richard shared some information with me that that was it. I mean, he figured it out. Okay, so we're going to do that show, and I think that that's going to be very intriguing to many folks, people who are into the McCartney conspiracy, and others, people who are just into alternative research, conspiracy, and want to know what dates and numbers, why. Okay, so Richard will explain that to us. And then sometime in the May time frame, it might bleed into June, I will do the video that I promised to explain the Stanshall-Ackrell connection. And in that video, I will also include a segment which will be my assessment, my theory, with a chronology of events and the players, when they paged in, when they paged out, to paint a picture of what I believe took place. Okay, so it's going to illustrate and present my theory on what happened and when. All right, and then that's going to be it. I'm not going to do any more Paul is Dead research. Again, unless something really, really significant pops up that is worth discussing. But other than that, I really feel like I've played it through. I'm finding that there's not a whole lot more to say about it. It is very time consuming. It's time consuming to put the presentations together. It's time consuming to do interviews. It's very time consuming to go through the multitudes of emails and PMs and comments that I receive. I really do try to get through all of it because my feeling is people are listening to my shows and they're subscribing. So to my very best ability, I'm going to try to respond. But it's gotten to the point where it's occupying way too much time. And quite honestly, from my perspective as a researcher, it has reached a point of diminishing returns. I feel like I've gotten everything I need to get out of it. I'm very positive in my mind that I have a very good understanding of what took place and why it took place. And I've presented those thoughts and those findings out to my audience. And of course, I'm going to have people that are going to agree with my theory, and I'm going to have folks that absolutely do not, and then everybody in between. And that's okay. It's perfectly all right. Everybody can believe whatever it is they want to believe. Like I said, I've only been in this to present findings. That's it. I'm not in this to fight with anybody, to go toe-to-toe with anybody. In fact, there was a video I put up on Saturday. It was one of the Vivian Stanshall voiceover videos. And I took it down on Sunday. And the reason why I took it down was because I had that moment, right? I thought to myself, why? And so, for the record, I don't want any hard feelings with anybody else, any other Paul's Dead researchers or people who are following and so on, okay? And I don't want to get into non-productive types of scenarios. I really don't, okay? Yes, I have advocated the memoirs of Billy Shears, and the reason for that is because, the book, for me, filled in a lot of blanks, a lot. And as I've mentioned in other videos, I became aware of the Paul is Dead conspiracy back in 1976. I was well aware of the clues, but like many people, I looked at the clues and I thought it was a very clever marketing ploy. And then I don't even know how I got back into it, to be honest with you. But when I read memoirs it was like the summer of 2016, it resonated with me, But I want to say this, okay? So I don't want to get into, like I said, I don't want to get into any kind of battle or tit for tat with anybody else. Read everybody's books. I recommend that you do read memoirs, but my recommendation of reading memoirs doesn't mean that you shouldn't read other Paul is Dead books by other researchers, right? So as an example, I've read this book. This is Nick Kolestrom's book, The Life and Death of Paul McCartney. I thought this was a very good book. I read this book, A Day in the Life, which is fiction, but it has a lot of information in here which I believe is not fiction, especially with regard to Brian Epstein and the control mechanism behind the Beatles. I think they refer to it as the Charm Company, but they're really referring to Tavistock. Okay, so that's A Day in the Life, and that's by, again, L. John Perkins. So read that book. I just bought this book. The Beatles Conspiracy by David Malaco. David, I hope I have your name right. Okay, so I'll be thumbing through this. Of course, we have the memoirs of Billy Shears. And by all means, read Tina's book as well. Okay? Everybody's going to have a different perspective. It's going to be up to each individual to determine what it is that resonates with them, what fits for them. So I just want to leave it there. With regard to the whole Paul is Dead stuff, okay? Like I said, I got into it. I did what I felt I needed to do, what I was being driven to do. Again, I'll reiterate this. I've said this, 100 times. I have nothing to do with the book. I have nothing to do with it financially, nothing like that. Tom and I have become acquaintances over the last 2.5 years. Our communications are email. There was one time when we had a phone call that was recently, and that was to talk a little bit more about the whole Crowley aspect as it played into memoirs. And that's it. Okay? So I know there's a lot of people out there that think, I'm tied into the book. I've read some comments where people said that they believe that I was actually the author of the book. And I am not the author of the book. Tom is the author of the book. Tom Harriet, that's his real name. I know there's been a lot of comments about that, and people send me tons of emails with anagrams saying, Tom's name is an anagram, Mike, it means this and it means that. But no, Tom has, he has a different last name, but his name is Thomas Harriet. Okay? All right, so I think that's about it for the whole Paul is Dead piece of it. Like I said, I'm going to wrap it up June, let's say. Right, June will be my last foray into this topic as far as continuing to talk about it, because I'm getting cotton mouth. If something does come up that's very significant, yes, I will consider presenting on it. But then after that, it's just going to be, I'm going to do my regular shows. I'm going to get back to that on my main channel. My Paul is Dead channel will remain up, because I counted the videos this morning. There are 40 videos up on the Paul is Dead channel. Okay, so those are all going to stay up. Anybody that wants to revisit those videos, re-listen to them, or folks that are just discovering the conspiracy can go take a listen, and they can get my perspective on this topic. And then I'm just going to do my regular radio shows. Even that's going to be pulled back significantly. I used to do 3 to 5 shows a month. And right now, I took a look at my channel this morning. I have 245 videos loaded up on my main channel, Sage of Quay. And that's over a span of 5 years. So that's a lot of videos. That's a lot of interviews that I've done, covering a lot of topics. And so I'm going to get back into that. And even with that, maybe 1 to 2 interviews a month. And some months I may go with none. Because just like the Paul is dead conspiracy, many of the topics that are being discussed in alternative research and the conspiracy research communities is regurgitating the same thing over and over and over again. There's very little, in my view, that's coming forth, or at least very little that I believe that is giving me any more insight. You know, the way I look at this whole thing is you can't stick your head in that rabbit hole 24/7, 365 days a year, forevermore. You just can't, because it is dark. And what you have to do, again, my opinion, giving you my suggestion based upon me spending many years doing this, is to learn what you need to learn and then move on. And then take what you've learned and then apply it to your life. Meaning, apply it so that you can avoid the traps that the controllers have set to keep you enslaved, to keep you shackled. And one of the things that I express to friends and family and also to my audience is that knowledge is power and wisdom is enlightenment. Okay, it's not good enough just to have the knowledge. You have to take that knowledge and you have to formulate it into wisdom, because that's very key. Okay, so anyway, I want to thank everyone for continuing to support the shows. It's greatly appreciated. And if you guys have any questions, I'm going to leave the comment section open below. You can comment, and I guess that'll be that. Okay, so the net of it is that the blog over time will be sunset. Paul is Dead will be sunset by June, the latest. That's my plan. And my main channel will continue on, but it will do so at a lesser and slower rate and pace. Okay, because I've reached that point in my life where I really feel like I need to walk other roads. Alrighty? All right, you guys, you have a great day, and we will talk soon.